Can the fate of a forest really be decided by a spreadsheet? It sounds a little crazy, but today we're going to dive into a pretty fascinating idea that the tools of business and finance might just hold the key to saving our most vital ecosystems. Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? For so long, we've been told it's one or the other. You can make a profit, or you can protect the environment. But what if that's a false choice? What if they could actually work together? To really get this, we've got to start by looking at the big picture. This isn't just one company's problem or one country's problem. The entire world is grappling with this. How do we build a better future without wrecking the very planet we all depend on? Well, the world's answer to that huge challenge is something called the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs for short. You can pretty much think of them as a global to-do list for creating a more balanced world, one that tackles everything from poverty and climate change to, economic growth. And these goals are all built on 5 really simple but powerful ideas. The idea that for a truly sustainable future, we need to take care of people, protect the planet, make sure everyone can prosper, live in peace, and crucially, work together to make it all happen. Okay, so now let's zoom in. We're going to go from that huge global blueprint to a very specific place where this whole challenge is playing out right now, the customary forests of Papua, Indonesia. You see, for the indigenous communities here, these forests are not just a bunch of trees, not even close. They're a core part of their culture, their heritage, their livelihood. In a very real sense, these forests are, well, they're everything. But, and this is the core of the problem, as the research we're looking at today points out, this vital heritage is under constant threat. Deforestation, industrial activities. They put both the ecosystem and the communities that depend on it at serious risk. So, what's the solution? This is where things get really interesting. Researchers are proposing a new approach, a totally different way of doing the math that could fundamentally change the whole game. Okay, so think about it like this. On one side, you've got traditional accounting. It's great at tracking money, profit and loss, that sort of thing. But it's completely blind to the cost of pollution or chopping down a forest. Those things are just called externalities. Basically, somebody else's problem. But green accounting? It flips that on its head. It puts the economic, the social, and the environmental impacts all on the same balance sheet. It's like a report card that grades a company on how well it treats the planet, not just its bottom line. So how does this actually work in practice? Well, green accounting tracks 3 key types of environmental costs. First, you've got prevention costs. That's the money you spend to stop making a mess in the first place. Then there are detection costs. That's for checking to make sure you're actually meeting the standards. And finally, failure costs. That's the price you pay to clean up the mess after things have already gone wrong. And when you track all of these costs, you get a really clear picture of a company's environmental performance. This isn't just about good intentions. It's a real measurable result. A good score here means less pollution, less waste, and a whole lot less damage to the natural world. So, okay, the theory sounds great, right? Green accounting, environmental performance. But does it actually work? Does it really help achieve those big, lofty, sustainable development goals we talked about? Let's take a look at what the research actually found. Now, don't get too bogged down by the diagram here. The important thing isn't all the boxes and arrows, it's what it was designed to do. Researchers basically built this model to test the links between all these ideas. They wanted to know, if we put digital green accounting into practice, will it have a real measurable impact on protecting the forests in Papua? So this is the million-dollar question, right? Did this new way of counting things actually make a difference on the ground? They were looking for a clear statistical link. And you know what? They found one. The first major finding really boils down to this one number, 0.696. So what does that mean? Well, in the world of statistics, that's a strong, positive, and significant relationship. It means that when companies in the region actually started measuring their environmental impact this way, it directly and powerfully helped protect the forests. It's a huge deal. But that wasn't the only thing they looked at. Did a company's actual day-to-day actions matter too? Well, the link between a company's environmental performance in hitting those goals is represented by this second number, 0.318. And this shows that, yep, a company's real-world actions, its actual performance, also had a positive and significant impact. So it's not just about having a new system. The results from that system have to lead to better performance, and that leads to better outcomes for the forest. But this whole study, it's not just about abstract models and numbers. It's about people. Specifically, it's about these 432 people. And this is maybe the most important part. All this data came from questionnaires answered by 432 indigenous community leaders. These are the people on the front lines, the ones whose cultural heritage is at stake. And their perspective confirms that these changes are making a real, tangible difference in their communities. Okay, so let's zoom back out for a second. We've seen the global goals, the local problem in Papua, this new solution, and the data that says it actually works. So, what's the bottom line? Why does all this matter?
Well, it really comes down to four key things. First, the old saying is true. What gets measured gets managed. Green accounting makes those invisible environmental costs visible, so companies have to deal with them. Second, this isn't just good for the planet, it's actually good for business. It helps companies improve and build public trust. Third, the study found it really does have a positive impact on the lives of local people. And finally, it gives us a clear, practical roadmap for how one company's actions can connect directly to those massive global goals.
So, at the end of the day, it all comes down to this one question. The research from Papua seems to suggest that by changing something as basic as how we count, how we define what has value and what has a cost, we might just be able to write a totally different future for our forests, and maybe for our entire planet.